Hey, what's going on, ladies? It's your boy, Mr. Locario, the bad boy of the dating game. What's good? So, in this audio slash video, I wanted to talk about why you're having trouble finding a guy. And one of the main reasons why you're having trouble finding a guy is because you are looking for a guy who is perfect. Now you might say to yourself, "No, I'm not. I don't want a guy who's perfect. He doesn't have to be perfect. I just want him to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all the way to the end of the alphabet. But he doesn't have to be perfect. I have this long list of things that he has to be, but he doesn't have to be perfect. I want him to be tall, dark, and handsome. Make this much a year to be this way, be that way. But he doesn't have to be perfect, right? So what you got to understand is this." Is that when you're trying to find a guy, right, you have to be more open in your selection process. And what I mean by this is you don't want to settle, but you also don't want to be unrealistic. So you want to be somewhere in the middle of settling and realistic. You got to be in the middle of that type of situation, right? So, you might have some things that are non-negotiable, right? You might say, okay, the guy needs to have a job, right? Fine, that's cool. The guy needs to have a job. That's better than saying, the guy has to be making six figures a year, right? So the thing is that if you sort of have your non-negotiables be more realistic, like, okay, he needs to have a job versus he needs to be making 6-7 figures a year, then it's going to be easier for you to find the guy, right? It's not saying you can't find a guy who's making 6 or 7 figures a year, but it's making your pool of men that you can choose from smaller when you are, trying to just go for that type of guy. Right? See, what you got to understand is this. The way that men choose women, right? Men are a little bit more open to the type of women they interact with, right? A lot of the guys that approach you or try to talk to you, more than half of them, you might not have been their type. But they were like, you know what? She seems cool. I'm going to give her a chance. She seems like, a cool person. She's attractive still. I'm going to go up and talk to her. Right? But see, that's because they're being a little bit more open with their selection. Right? So you need to be a little bit more open with your selection so that you can have a wider variety of guys to choose from. Right? Now, the argument that I always see or always hear is that women will say, well, you know what? It's because I'm a woman and I have to make sure I pick the right guy because if we get married and we have kids and I got to make sure he's this way and he's that way. And that's totally understandable. But at the same time, like I was saying earlier, is that you have to be a little bit more open and realistic about what you're choosing. See, the thing is that if you have this idea of the type of guy you want, that's fine. But a lot of the ideas of the type of men women want is, I've even heard a lot of times where women will say, oh, I want a guy who's over like 6'2". A good majority, I'd say 90% of guys are not that tall. You understand? So if you're looking for that guy, you're going to have a hard time finding that guy. It makes the pool of guys that you can get smaller, right? So the smaller your pool of men, the harder it is going to be to get a guy. So you have to open it up. Now, again, like I was saying, you don't want to settle for somebody you're not into. You don't want to just be like, oh, well, I'll just take him because he's there. And, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to be satisfied with that. But at the same time, you want to be able to be a little bit more realistic and a little bit more open to, your range of things that you want in a man. Right? So the thing is that if you have a certain list or a certain thing that you are thinking about, as far as you want a guy that's this way, that way, and that way, those things on your list, because it's the things that are on your list should be something that can apply to a mass number of men. Because then if it does, then it's easier for you to get that guy. Right? If you're saying I need a guy that's 6'2" who makes 7 figures and who's built like, washboard abs and all this other stuff, then that's going to be harder for you to get, because that's a smaller range of guy, right? There's not that many guys that are like that. But if you say, you know what, I just want a guy who's taller than me, who has a job, who makes his own money, and who I'm attracted to, that's a better way to go than, all those super specific 6'5" making 7 figures. It's just like, it's going to make it harder for you. So the thing is, when you stop looking for that quote unquote perfect guy, then it's easier for you to find a man, right? It's really that simple. So ladies, listen, if you have any questions, make sure you click the link below. Go to hewantsyou.com to get my free audio program, 7 highly effective steps for finding and keeping a man. And I'll talk to you later. Remember, the truth is inside you. Peace. I'm gone.